A quiet peace settled over the campsite, a deceptive calm before the storm that would engulf our seemingly idyllic weekend. Sam, my wife of 8 years, was once again wrestling with a marshmallow, its sugary embrace catching fire for the 3rd time in 10 minutes. She blew it out with a flourish, a practiced pout, and a cascade of perfectly tousled hair that belied the 20 minutes she'd spent perfecting her effortless camping look. "Eli, you're supposed to help me with these," she chided. Her gaze, once capable of making my heart skip a beat, now felt like a customer service representative dealing with a particularly slow client. "Right? Because marshmallow roasting is definitely a 2-person job," I retorted, taking another swig of my lukewarm beer. The cheap lager tasted like, well, cold piss, but in the mountain heat it was bearable. Around our crackling campfire, the usual suspects had gathered for what Sam insisted on calling our annual couples retreat. Brandon Pike, a man whose designer camping gear looked like it had never seen an actual speck of dirt, sat across from me, radiating an air of manufactured success. Nina, Sam's best friend since college, was already 3 drinks deep, that telltale glassy sheen in her eyes signaling impending trouble. Her boyfriend, Derek, was slumped in a camp chair, mouth agape like a beached fish. Leah, the quiet observer, the one who always seemed to be mentally cataloging every detail, sat beside her husband, Mark, both of them gazing into the flames as if seeking cosmic revelations. "Truth or dare?" Nana suddenly announced, her voice laced with a childish glee that suggested we were all regressing to 16. I groaned. "Seriously? What's next? Spin the bottle." "Don't be such a buzzkill, Eli," Sam said, but her smile was directed at Nana, not me. "It'll be fun." Famous last words. In my experience, nothing good ever began with, "It'll be fun." That's what Sam had said about this whole trip, about inviting Brandon, about a lot of things that had spectacularly backfired. The game started innocently enough. Derek, jolted awake, confessed to cheating on his college entrance exams. Mark admitted to stealing his brother's girlfriend in high school. Nana dared Leah to skinny dip in the lake, a dare she nervously declined. Then, Nana turned to Sam, a predatory grin spreading across her face, the unmistakable scent of drama in the air. "Truth or dare, Sammy?" "Truth," Sam replied, surprising me. She usually opted for the dares. "If you could sleep with any man here besides your husband, obviously, who would it be?" The silence stretched, taut and suffocating, like a rubber band about to snap. My jaw tightened, anticipating Sam's usual playful deflection, a gentle reminder of our marriage, a defense of our vows. Instead, she looked directly at Brandon and said, "Him." The beer turned to acid in my stomach. Brandon's face flushed, but he grinned like he'd just won the lottery. The others offered nervous, forced laughter, the kind that acknowledges a line has been crossed but no one wants to admit it. "Wow," I managed, my voice flatter than I intended. "Good to know." "Oh, come on, Eli," Sam said, reaching for my arm. "It's just a game. Don't be so sensitive." "Sensitive? Right, because wanting your wife to show basic respect for our marriage makes me sensitive." I stood, my chair scraping against the rocky ground. "I'm going to take a piss." "Eli," Sam started, but I was already walking away, swallowed by the darkness between the trees. I didn't go far, just far enough to be out of the firelight, to lean against a rough pine and try to process the seismic shift that had just occurred. Through the trees, I could still hear their voices, the game continuing, Sam's laughter ringing out, bright and carefree, as if nothing had happened. Maybe I was overreacting. Maybe it was just Nana stirring the pot, her usual brand of chaos. Then, the crunch of pine needles behind me. Sam. But she wasn't alone. Brandon was right behind her, his hand resting on her lower back, a gesture far too intimate for mere friendship. "Eli," Sam called out, her voice tinged with a feigned concern. "Where are you?" I pressed myself against the tree trunk, feeling like a complete fool for hiding, yet utterly incapable of moving. They stopped about 10 feet away, close enough that I could smell Sam's perfume mingling with Brandon's cologne. "He's probably sulking by the lake," Brandon said, his voice dismissive. "Guy's always been too uptight." "He is not," Sam replied, but the conviction was missing. "He's just protective of—" "You're not his property, Sam." I watched, frozen, as my wife of 8 years stepped closer to my hiking buddy of 12. I watched her place her hands on his chest. I watched him lean down and kiss her, a kiss that felt as natural as breathing, as if our entire shared history was nothing but a forgotten dream. I stood there in the darkness, a silent witness as my marriage imploded before my eyes. They broke apart after what felt like an eternity, but was likely mere seconds. "We should get back," Sam whispered. "Yeah," Brandon agreed, his hand still on her waist. I know." They walked back toward the fire, leaving me alone with the whispering pines and the frantic hammering of my own heart. I stayed there for another 20 minutes, long enough for my hands to stop shaking, for my breathing to even out, long enough to make a decision. When I returned to the fire, Sam looked up, her concern almost convincing. "There you are. I was worried." "Just needed some air," I said, settling back into my chair. "So whose turn is it?" The game continued. I played along, laughed at the right moments, even chugged a beer in under 10 seconds for a dare. But inside, I was already gone. Inside, I was planning. By the time we retreated to our respective tents, the seeds of an idea had taken root. Not just about Sam and Brandon, but about all of them. Nina, who had orchestrated this entire charade. Derek and Mark, who had sat there grinning like idiots while my wife flirted with another man. Even Leah, who had watched it all with those calculating eyes and said nothing. They thought they knew me. They thought I was just good old reliable Eli, the guy who fixed things, paid for things, and never made waves. The guy who would take this lying down because that's what good guys do. They were about to learn how profoundly wrong they were. I lay in my sleeping bag next to Sam, listening to her breathe, and planned my revenge. She had destroyed our marriage in front of our friends like it was mere entertainment. Fine, I'd return the favor, but I'd do it right. I'd do it so thoroughly that when I was done, she'd wish she'd never heard Brandon Pike's name. The mountain air was cold, but I felt warm for the first time in hours, warm with purpose. I left the camping trip a day early, feigning food poisoning. Sam barely looked up from her conversation with Brandon when I announced I was packing up the truck. "Feel better, honey?" she said, giving me a distracted kiss on the cheek. "Drive safe." The concern in her voice was as genuine as a $3 bill, but I played along. "We will. You kids have fun." The 3-hour drive home gave me ample time to think. By the time I pulled into our driveway in suburban Millbrook, the outline of a plan had formed. It wasn't pretty, and it certainly wasn't nice, but then again, neither was watching my wife tongue wrestle my best friend while our other friends cheered them on. First things first, I needed help. Professional help. Jace Kowalski lived in a converted garage behind a house on the wrong side of town. We'd served together in Afghanistan, back when we were young and stupid enough to think we were saving the world. Now he was a private investigator with a drinking problem and a knack for digging up dirt on people who thought they were too clean to have any. I found him hunched over his computer, surrounded by empty coffee cups and the kind of clutter that suggested organization was a foreign concept. "Eli Mercer?" he grunted without looking up. "What brings you to my palatial estate?" "I need a favor." "Of course you do. Nobody visits me for my sparkling personality." He finally turned, taking in my expression. "What happened?" I told him everything. The camping trip, the truth or dare game, the kiss in the woods. Jace listened without interrupting. a rare feat for him. When I finished, he was quiet for a long moment. "So, you want me to dig up dirt on your wife? On my wife? On Brandon? On all of them? That's gonna cost you. How much?" He named a figure that made my eyes water, but I nodded. "Done. All right then." He cracked his knuckles. "When do we start?" Jace was good at his job. I'll give him that. Within 48 hours, he'd assembled a preliminary report that made for fascinating, if sickening, reading. Brandon Pike, it turned out, wasn't quite the successful tech entrepreneur he pretended to be. His startup was hemorrhaging money, his investors were getting nervous, and he'd been hitting up friends for loans he had no intention of repaying. More interesting, however, was what Jace had found about Sam. Credit card receipts for hotels I'd never heard of. Charges at restaurants during times she'd claimed to be working late. A secret Instagram account with a lot more followers than her legitimate one, and a lot less clothing. "Your wife's got a side hustle," Jay said, sliding a folder across his desk. "OnlyFans, private video calls, the whole 9 yards. I flipped through the printouts, a wave of nausea washing over me. There she was, my wife of 8 years, selling herself to strangers on the internet. And there was Brandon, appearing in some of the more recent content. "How long has this been going on?" "Based on the account creation dates, about 6 months. But the content with your buddy is newer? Maybe 6 weeks." 6 weeks. Right around the time Brandon had started hanging around more, dropping by for beers, joining us for dinners. I'd thought he was going through a rough patch after his last breakup. Turns out he was working on creating his next one. "There's more," Jay continued. "Nina's been encouraging this whole thing. Got text messages between her and Sam talking about exploring options and life being too short. Derek's been cheating on Nina for months, by the way. Figured you'd want to know." I closed the folder, my hands surprisingly steady. "What about Mark and Leah?" "Clean, mostly. Though Leah's got some interesting financial records. Looks like she's been skimming from the charities she works for. Nothing major, but enough to matter if it came out. Everyone had secrets. Everyone had vulnerabilities. That was going to make this so much easier." "Good work," I said, standing up. "Keep digging. I want to know everything." "Eli," Jay said as I reached the door. "You sure about this? Once you go down this road?" "I'm sure. What about just divorcing her, taking half and moving on?" I turned back to look at him. "She humiliated me in front of our friends. Made me look like a fool. A divorce is just paperwork. This is about justice." Jace nodded slowly. "All right then. Justice it is." I drove home to our empty house. Sam was still at the mountains, probably still playing games with Brandon. I sat in my kitchen, staring at the folder Jace had given me. 8 years of marriage reduced to receipts and screenshots and evidence of betrayal. My phone buzzed, a text from Sam. "Miss you. Having so much fun. Home tomorrow afternoon. Love you." I stared at the message for a long time before typing back. "Miss you too." Can't wait to hear all about it. The lies came so easily now, but then again, I was learning from the best. That night, I started making lists, not just of what I knew, but of what I needed to know. Not just of what I wanted to do, but of how I was going to do it without ending up in jail or broke, or both. Sam thought she was so clever, playing her little games, keeping her secrets. She had no idea that her husband, boring, reliable, predictable Eli, was about to become the most dangerous person in her life. I fell asleep at the kitchen table, my head pillowed on plans for revenge. Sam came home Sunday evening with a glow that had nothing to do with mountain air and everything to do with guilt. She was overly affectionate, making my favorite dinner, asking about my food poisoning with the kind of concerned attention she usually reserved for her Instagram followers. "You look better," she said, running her fingers through my hair as I sat at the kitchen table. "I'm fine," I said, catching her hand and looking up at her. "How was the rest of the trip?" "Oh, you know, same old stuff. We hiked a little, played some more games. Nina got way too drunk and Derek had to carry her back to the tent. She laughed, but it sounded forced. Brandon asked about you. Actually felt bad that you had to leave early. I'll bet he did. If she caught the edge in my voice, she didn't show it. Instead, she leaned down and kissed the top of my head. I'm going to take a shower. This mountain dirt is driving me crazy. I watched her walk upstairs, noting the way she took her phone with her. Probably had messages to delete, photos to hide, but that was fine. Jace had already captured most of what I needed, and what he hadn't gotten yet, he would. The next few days fell into a routine that felt almost normal. Sam went to work at the graphic design firm where she'd been employed for 3 years. I managed construction projects and pretended everything was fine. We had dinner together, watched Netflix, made small talk about our days, but I was watching her now, really watching. I noticed how she kept her phone face down during dinner, how she stayed up late, claiming to work on freelance projects, but actually, according to Jace's surveillance, video chatting with paying customers. How she found excuses to meet Nana for lunch or coffee, conversations that, according to the audio Jace had managed to capture, centered around her new relationship and how to manage the situation. By Thursday, I was ready to make my first move. Brandon called, I said over dinner. Wants to grab beers tomorrow night. You mind? Sam's fork paused halfway to her mouth. Oh no, of course not. You two haven't hung out in a while. Not since the camping trip, right? Well, have fun. She was trying so hard to sound casual that it was almost painful to watch. Almost. Friday evening, I met Brandon at Murphy's Tavern, a dive bar on the outskirts of town where the beer was cheap and the lighting was dim. He was already there when I arrived, nursing a whiskey and looking nervous. Eli, good to see you, man. How are you feeling? Much better, thanks. I slid into the booth across from him and signaled the bartender for a beer. So how was the rest of the trip? Oh, pretty mellow after you left. Everyone was worried about you. Were they? Something in my tone must have alerted him because his eyes sharpened. Yeah, man. Of course, we're friends. Friends? I took a sip of my beer, letting the word hang in the air between us. That's interesting, Brandon, because I've been thinking a lot about friendship lately, about loyalty, about what it means to trust someone. He shifted in his seat. Okay. See, I used to think I knew what friendship looked like. I thought it meant having each other's backs, being honest, not screwing each other over for personal gain. Eli, what are you? I saw you, I interrupted, the words hitting him like a physical blow. His face went white, then red, then white again. I saw you kiss my wife in the woods while I was taking a piss 20 feet away. Brandon opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. Eli, I can explain. Can you? Because I'd love to hear this explanation. I'd love to know how you explain away the fact that you've been sleeping with my wife for 6 weeks, how you've been coming to my house, eating my food, drinking my beer, all while planning to steal my marriage. It's not like that. What's it like then? I leaned forward, my voice dropping to barely above a whisper. Enlighten me, Brandon. Tell me how it's not what it looks like. He was sweating now, despite the air conditioning. Look, Sam and I, there's something between us, okay? We didn't plan it. It just happened. And she's not happy, Eli. She hasn't been happy for a long time. So, you thought you'd help her out? I thought maybe you'd be better off knowing the truth. I laughed, and the sound was harsh enough that the bartender looked over. The truth, right? So, this was all for my benefit. Eli, please. I never meant for it to happen this way. How did you mean for it to happen? Did you think I'd just step aside, give you my blessing, maybe throw you a bachelor party? I don't know. I wasn't thinking clearly. She's amazing, man, and you two have been having problems for months. Have we? That's news to me. Come on, you had to know something was wrong, the way she talks about you, about your marriage. How does she talk about me, Brandon? He realized his mistake immediately, but it was too late to take it back. I didn't mean, how does my wife talk about me to her lover? The silence stretched out between us. Finally, Brandon looked down at his drink and said, "She says you don't understand her, that you're too safe, predictable, that she feels trapped." Each word hit like a punch to the gut, but I kept my expression neutral. "Interesting. And you're what? Her escape plan. I love her, Eli. You love her." I finished my beer and set the bottle down carefully. "Well, that changes everything, doesn't it? True love conquers all, right?" "You're being sarcastic." "But yes, I do love her, and she loves me." "Then you won't mind if I tell you that I know about the OnlyFans account, about the hotel receipts, about the fact that your startup is going under, and you've been borrowing money from everyone you know." Brandon's face went gray. "How do you know about that?" "I'm a thorough guy, Brandon. When someone betrays me, I like to understand the full scope of the betrayal." I stood up, throwing a 20 on the table. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to stay away from my wife. You're going to delete her number, block her on social media, and pretend she doesn't exist. Because if you don't, I'm going to make sure everyone knows exactly what kind of man you really are. Your investors, your clients, your mother, everyone. You can't. I can, and I will. Sam made her choice, and now she gets to live with the consequences. But you're done." I walked out of the bar, leaving Brandon sitting alone with his whiskey and his guilt. It felt good, but it wasn't nearly enough. This was just the opening move. The real game was about to begin. Sam knew something was wrong the moment I walked through the door. Maybe it was my expression, or maybe she'd already heard from Brandon. Either way, she was waiting for me in the living room, perched on the edge of the couch like she was ready to run. "How was your night out?" she asked, her voice carefully neutral. "Enlightening?" I sat down in my chair, the one she'd been trying to get me to replace for 2 years because it didn't match her aesthetic. Brandon had some interesting things to say. "Oh, about you, about your relationship, about how trapped you feel in our marriage." The color drained from her face, but she rallied quickly. "Eli, whatever he told you, he told me the truth, Sam. Finally, after months of lies, someone was honest with me." She stood up, pacing to the window and back. "It's not what you think. It's exactly what I think. You've been cheating on me for weeks, maybe longer." "Eli, don't." I held up my hand. "Don't insult my intelligence by denying it. I saw you kiss him. I have the hotel receipts. I know about your little side business online." That stopped her cold. "You've been spying on me. I've been trying to understand why my wife has been lying to me. Why she's been selling herself on the internet while pretending to be working late. Why she's been meeting her lover at hotels while telling me she's having lunch with Nana." Sam sank back onto the couch, her hand shaking. "How long have you known? Does it matter?" "Yes, it matters if you've known for weeks and haven't said anything." "What? You think this is my fault for not confronting you sooner?" "I think we need to talk about this like adults." I laughed, and the sound was bitter even to my own ears. "Adults, right? Adults don't humiliate their spouses in front of their friends. Adults don't cheat and lie and sell naked pictures of themselves to strangers. You don't understand. Then explain it to me. Make me understand how any of this is justified." She was crying now, but I felt nothing. No sympathy, no urge to comfort her. Just cold, calculating anger. "I was lonely," she said finally. "You work all the time, and when you're home, you're tired or distracted or distant. We barely talk anymore, barely touch. I felt like I was disappearing. So, you decided to sleep with Brandon. It wasn't like that. It started as just talking. He listened to me, made me feel interesting again, made me feel alive. And the online stuff, that was Nana's idea. She said I could make good money, that it was empowering, and it was. At first, it made me feel attractive, desired by strangers, by people who appreciated me. And I don't. When was the last time you told me I was beautiful? When was the last time you surprised me with anything? When was the last time we had a real conversation about anything other than bills, or schedules, or home repairs? Her words hit their mark, and for a moment I almost felt guilty. Almost. Then I remembered Brandon's hands on her waist, her laugh as she flirted with him in front of everyone. The photos Jace had shown me of her with other men. So this is my fault. It's both our faults. Our marriage has been dying for months, Eli. We both know it. I didn't know it. I thought we were going through a rough patch. I thought we'd work through it. How? We never talk about anything real anymore. We're talking now, because you caught me, because you hired someone to spy on me. I stood up, suddenly too restless to sit. What did you expect me to do, Sam? Just ignore the fact that my wife was acting like a stranger? Just pretend everything was fine while you planned your exit strategy? I wasn't planning anything, I was just exploring. Exploring, right? And Brandon, what was he exploring? He loves me. He's using you. His business is failing. He's broke and he's desperate. You're a distraction. Maybe a meal ticket if he can convince you to leave me and take half of everything we've built. That's not true, isn't it? Has he asked you to leave me yet? Has he made any promises about your future together? Her silence was answer enough. He has, hasn't he? What did he promise you, Sam? That you'd run away together? That he'd take care of you? Stop it. With what money? His startup is hemorrhaging cash. He's been borrowing from everyone he knows just to keep the lights on. What exactly is he offering you besides great sex and empty promises? I said, stop it. Why? Because you're starting to realize you've been played? That your great love affair is just another lie? She was sobbing now, her carefully applied makeup running down her cheeks. A part of me wanted to comfort her, to hold her and tell her we could work through this, but that part was getting smaller by the minute. What happens now? She asked finally. Now you have a choice. You can end it with Brandon, delete your accounts, and we can try to rebuild our marriage, or you can pack your things and leave. Those are my only options. Those are the only options I'm willing to consider. She looked at me like she was seeing me for the first time. What happened to you? You're not the man I married. The man you married trusted you, believed in you, thought you were worth fighting for. You eliminated him, Sam. This is who's left. She stood up, wiping her eyes with the back of her hand. I need time to think. You have until tomorrow night. After that, I'm filing for divorce. Eli, I'm done talking. I'm done being understanding. I'm done being the good guy while you and your friends treat me like a joke. Our friends. Our friends watched you flirt with Brandon and said nothing. Nina encouraged you to cheat. Derek and Mark sat there grinning while you humiliated me. They're not my friends anymore. And after I'm done with them, they won't be yours either. Something in my voice must have scared her because she took a step back. What are you going to do? Whatever I have to do. She stared at me for a long moment, then turned and walked upstairs. I heard our bedroom door close, then the sound of her moving around, opening drawers and closets. I sat back down in my ugly chair and waited. An hour later, she came downstairs with a suitcase and her laptop bag. I'm going to stay with Nana for a few days to think. Good idea. Give her my regards. She paused at the door. I did love you, Eli. I still do. In my way. Your way isn't good enough anymore. After she left, I poured myself 3 fingers of bourbon and called Jace. She's gone, I said when he answered. For good? We'll see. How's the research coming? I've got enough dirt to bury all of them. When do you want to start? I looked around our empty house, at the photos of happier times, at the life we'd built together that was now just evidence in a divorce case. Tomorrow, I said. We start tomorrow. Nana's apartment was in one of those trendy complexes downtown where young professionals paid too much rent to feel sophisticated. I knew Sam was there because Jace had been tracking her phone, and I knew Nana would be at work because I'd called her office pretending to be a client. I didn't break in. I didn't have to. The apartment manager was happy to let me wait in the lobby when I explained that I was Nana's friend's husband and needed to pick up some of my wife's things. Amazing how a wedding ring and a sad story could open doors. When Naina walked in at 6:30, she found me sitting in the lobby, reading a magazine like I belonged there. "Eli, what are you doing here?" "Waiting for you. We need to talk." She glanced toward the elevators like she was thinking about making a run for it. "I don't think that's a good idea. Sam said you two are having problems." Sam said a lot of things, most of them lies. "Look, whatever's going on between you and Sam involves you directly." I stood up, noting how she took an instinctive step backward. "You encouraged her to cheat. You suggested the OnlyFans account. You've been coaching her through this whole thing. I don't know what you're talking about." "Sure you do. I have the text messages, Naina, all of them. The ones where you tell her life's too short to be unhappy. The ones where you help her set up hotel meetings. The ones where you call me boring and predictable and tell her she deserves better." Her face went white. "How did you get your private messages?" "I'm very motivated, Nina. And I have resources you don't know about. You can't just spy on people. Watch me." I pulled out my phone and showed her a screenshot of a conversation between her and Sam from 2 weeks ago. "This is where you tell her that Brandon is totally into her and she should go for it. This is where you volunteered to be her alibi for their first hotel meeting." Naina grabbed for the phone, but I pulled it back. "Those are private. So was my marriage, but that didn't stop you from helping destroy it. Sam was miserable. You never paid attention to her. Never made her feel special. All you cared about was work and your stupid construction projects. So, you decided to help her have an affair instead of maybe suggesting marriage counseling? She tried to talk to you. You never listened. When did she try to talk to me?" Naina opened her mouth, then closed it. "I don't remember specifics, but because it never happened. Sam never tried to talk to me about problems in our marriage. She just started sleeping with my friend and selling herself online, with your encouragement. I was being a good friend. You were being a drama-seeking witch who wanted to live vicariously through someone else's affair." The words hit her like a slap. "You can't talk to me like that. I can talk to you however I want, because here's what's going to happen, Naina. You're going to stop helping Sam destroy my marriage. You're going to stop giving her advice about her relationship with Brandon, and you're going to start being honest about your own problems." "What problems?" I smiled, and I could see it made her nervous. "Derek's been cheating on you for months. Hotel charges on his credit card. Phone calls to a woman named Jennifer who works at his gym. They've been meeting twice a week for the past 3 months. The blood drained from her face. "That's not true." "It's completely true. I can show you the evidence if you want, photos, credit card records, phone logs. Derek's not very careful about covering his tracks." "You're lying." "Am I? When was the last time Derek worked late on a Tuesday? When was the last time he went to the gym on Thursday evenings but came home without his workout clothes being sweaty?" She was shaking now, her hands clenched into fists. "Why are you doing this?" "Because you helped ruin my marriage, and now I'm returning the favor because you thought it was fun to play with other people's lives, and now you get to see how it feels." You never meant to get caught. None of you did. You all thought I was too stupid or too trusting to figure out what was happening right in front of me. Eli, please. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to tell Sam that helping her cheat was a mistake. You're going to encourage her to work things out with me or end our marriage cleanly without drama. And you're going to stay out of it from now on. And if I don't, then I send Derek the photos of you and that bartender from Murphy's Tavern. The ones from last month when you thought Derek was working late, but he was actually with Jennifer. Her mouth fell open. How could you possibly know about that? I told you, Naina, I'm very motivated and I have good help. I stood up to leave, then turned back. Oh, and Naina, you might want to get tested. Jennifer's been with at least 3 other guys in the past month, and Derek's not using protection. I left her standing in the lobby, staring after me with a mixture of fear and hatred. It felt good. Not as good as I'd hoped, but it was a start. My phone rang as I was walking to my truck. Sam, what have you done to Naina? I had a conversation with her about friendship, about loyalty, about consequences. She's hysterical. She says you threatened her. I educated her. There's a difference. Eli, this has to stop. Whatever you think you're accomplishing, I'm accomplishing exactly what I set out to accomplish. I'm showing all of you what happens when you mess with someone who's smarter than you thought. This isn't you. This isn't who you are. This is exactly who I am. This is who I've always been. You just never bothered to pay attention. I hung up and drove home, already planning my next move. Nina was just the appetizer. The main course was still to come. Derek was easier to corner than Nina. He worked at a marketing firm downtown, the kind of glass and steel building that was supposed to look impressive, but mostly just looked expensive. I waited for him in the parking garage after work, leaning against his BMW like I belonged there. Eli, hey man, what are you doing here? Thought we should talk about the camping trip, about loyalty, about Jennifer. The color drained from his face so fast I thought he might pass out. I don't know what you mean. Sure you do. Jennifer Martinez, personal trainer at Elite Fitness, 26 years old, divorced, lives in that apartment complex on Riverside Drive. Ring any bells? Derek looked around the parking garage like he was hoping for rescue, but we were alone, except for the concrete pillars and the smell of exhaust fumes. How do you know about Jennifer? Same way I know about the hotel room you rented last Tuesday. Same way I know about the credit card charges at Victoria's Secret for lingerie that definitely wasn't Nina's size. Jesus Christ, Eli, what do you want? I want you to understand something. While you were sitting around that campfire watching my wife flirt with Brandon, while you were grinning like an idiot when she said she wanted to sleep with him, you were cheating on your own girlfriend. That's different. How is it different? Nina and I aren't married. We don't have the same commitment. You live together. You share bills. You've been together for 3 years. But you don't think that means anything? It's complicated. No, it's simple. You're a cheater and a hypocrite. You thought it was hilarious when Sam humiliated me. But you've been doing the same thing to Nina for months. Derek leaned against his car, suddenly looking older than his 32 years. Look, Nina and I, we're not right for each other. We both know it. We're just going through the motions. So end it. It's not that simple. We have the lease, the dog, all our stuff is mixed together. So you decided to cheat instead of being an adult about it. I didn't plan for it to happen. Jennifer and I just connected. You know, she gets me in a way Nina never has. Spare me the romantic bullshit. You wanted to sleep with someone new, so you did. At least own it. Derek straightened up, some of his confidence returning. Fine, yeah, I cheated. So what? What are you going to do about it? I'm going to give you a choice. You can tell Nina about Jennifer yourself, or I can tell her, but either way, she's gonna find out. You bastard? Probably. But I'm an honest bastard, which is more than I can say for you. Why do you care? Nina's not your wife. Nina helped destroy my marriage. She encouraged Sam to cheat, gave her advice on how to do it, provided alibis for their meetings. She thought it was fun to play with other people's lives. Now she gets to see how it feels? That's messed up, man. What's messed up is sitting there watching your friend's wife flirt with another man and thinking it's entertainment. What's messed up is helping someone cheat while you're cheating yourself. What's messed up is thinking I'd just take it and not fight back. Derek was quiet for a long moment. What do you want from me? I want you to stay out of my business. I want you to stop being friends with Brandon. And I want you to think real hard about whether you want Nina to hear about Jennifer from you or from me. And if I do all that, then maybe I don't also tell Jennifer about the other women you've been texting. Maybe I don't send your boss the photos of you and Jennifer in his conference room last week. Derek's eyes went wide. You have photos? I have everything, Derek. Every text, every photo, every credit card charge. I know about the woman in accounting you've been flirting with. I know about the escort you hired for that business trip to Chicago. I know things about you that you've forgotten you did. This is insane. This is thorough. This is what happens when you underestimate someone. I pushed off from his car and started walking toward my truck. You have until tomorrow night to tell Nana. After that, I do it for you. Eli, wait. I turned back. What happened to you? You used to be a good guy. I'm still a good guy. I'm just not a stupid guy anymore. That night, I sat in my empty house and reviewed the files Jace had compiled on Mark and Leah. They were the last two from the camping trip, and in some ways, the most interesting. Mark worked for a construction company that had been underbidding on city contracts, probably through bribery. Leah had been skimming from the children's charity where she volunteered. Small amounts, but over a long period. They thought they were the smart ones, the ones who kept their mouths shut and stayed out of drama. They had no idea that staying silent while watching someone get humiliated made them complicit. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. This is Derek. I told Nina about Jennifer, about everything. She kicked me out. Are you happy now? I typed back, getting there. Another text, this one from Nina. I hope you're satisfied. Derek and I are done and it's all your fault. I responded, no, it's Derek's fault for cheating and your fault for helping my wife do the same thing. I just made sure you both face consequences for your actions. She didn't text back. I poured myself a drink and called Jace. How are we doing on Mark and Leah? Got everything you need? When do you want to move on them? Tomorrow. I want this finished by the weekend. And then what? Then I deal with Brandon and Sam. Eli, you sure about all this? You're burning a lot of bridges. They burned first. I'm just making sure the fire spreads. After I hung up, I sat in my living room, looking at the photos on the mantle. Sam and me on our wedding day. Both of us young and happy and convinced we'd figured out how to beat the odds. Sam and me on vacation in Mexico. Her laughing at something I'd said, looking at me like I was the most interesting man in the world. Sam and me with all our friends at various parties and gatherings. Everyone smiling, everyone pretending to be happy. All of it was fake. All of it was built on lies and secrets and betrayals. I was just the only one who'd been too trusting to see it. Well, I wasn't trusting anymore. And by the time I was done, none of them would be smiling. I finished my drink and went to bed, already planning tomorrow's conversations. Mark and Leah thought they were safe because they'd kept their mouths shut. They were about to learn that silence had its own price. Mark's construction site was on the north side of town, a half-finished office building that was supposed to be completed 6 months ago. I found him in the trailer that served as his temporary office, hunched over blueprints and looking stressed. Eli, what brings you out here? Thought we should talk about the camping trip, about friendship, about city contracts. His face went pale, but he tried to play it off. I don't know what you mean about contracts. Sure you do. Consolidated Municipal Services has been winning an awful lot of bids lately, always coming in just under the competition. That's quite a coincidence. We're just competitive. You're just corrupt. Your boss has been paying off City Councilman Roberts for inside information on competing bids. $50,000 over the past year, funneled through your company's books as consulting fees. Mark sat down his pencil very carefully. Even if that were true, it wouldn't have anything to do with you. It has everything to do with me. You sat there at that campfire and watched Sam humiliate me. You said nothing when she announced she wanted to sleep with Brandon. You treated my marriage like entertainment. That was just a stupid game. It was my life. And you thought it was funny? I didn't think it was funny. I thought it was awkward as hell, but it wasn't my business. Exactly. You didn't want to get involved. You didn't want to rock the boat. You just wanted to sit there and watch the drama unfold. Mark stood up, his hands clenched into fists. What do you want, Eli? I want you to understand that staying silent has consequences. I want you to know that being a coward doesn't protect you from anything. So, you're going to turn me in, destroy my career because your wife played a stupid game at a campfire? I'm going to give you the same choice I gave the others. You can distance yourself from Brandon and Sam and their little drama, or you can deal with the consequences of your own actions. What consequences? I pulled out my phone and showed him photos of documents, bank records, meeting schedules. The FBI is very interested in municipal corruption these days, especially when it involves taxpayer money. You son of a bitch. Maybe, but I'm a son of a bitch who pays attention, who remembers things, who doesn't let people get away with treating him like a joke. Mark sank back into his chair. What do you want me to do? Nothing. Just stay away from Sam and Brandon. Don't take sides. Don't offer support. Just pretend they don't exist. And if I do that, then maybe these documents get lost in my files. Maybe I forget where I put them. You're blackmailing me. I'm offering you a deal. The same kind of deal you've been making with Councilman Roberts. I left him sitting in his trailer, staring at the blueprints for a building that might never get finished if his corruption came to light. Leah was harder to find. She worked part-time for the children's charity and part-time as a freelance bookkeeper, which meant she could be anywhere. I finally tracked her down at the coffee shop where she liked to work on her laptop. Mind if I sit down? She looked up from her screen, startled. Eli, I didn't see you come in. We need to talk about the camping trip, about the Children's Hope Foundation, about creative accounting. Her face went white, but she tried to maintain her composure. I don't know what you mean. Sure you do. You've been skimming from the charity for 8 months. Small amounts. Nothing that would be noticed in a casual audit, but it adds up. $12,000 so far. That's not true. It's completely true. I have copies of the bank records, the receipts you've been falsifying, the checks you've been writing to yourself for expenses that never happened. Leah closed her laptop and looked around the coffee shop like she was planning an escape route. Even if that were true, why would you care? Because you sat there and watched Sam humiliate me and said nothing because you're supposed to be one of the good ones, Leah. The quiet one, the responsible one. But you're just another thief. I needed the money. My mom's medical bills. The mortgage payments were behind. I was going to pay it back after you'd stolen enough to cover all your problems. It's not stealing. I work for that charity. I put in hours they don't pay me for. You volunteer for that charity. Nobody forced you to do it, and nobody gave you permission to help yourself to money that was supposed to help children. Leah was crying now, quiet tears that she wiped away with the back of her hand. Please don't turn me in. I'll pay it back, I swear. How? You're already behind on your bills. Mark's construction company is about to be investigated for corruption, so his income is going to disappear. How exactly are you going to pay back $12,000? I don't know. I'll figure something out. Here's what you're going to do. You're going to resign from the charity. You're going to recommend they do a full audit of their books. And you're going to stay away from Sam and Brandon and their drama. That's it. That's it. You keep your mouth shut. Stay out of my business. And maybe I forget about your creative bookkeeping. And if I don't, then the charity gets an anonymous tip about missing funds. And you get to explain to a judge why you thought it was okay to steal from children. She stared at me for a long moment. You've changed, Eli. This isn't who you used to be. This is exactly who I used to be. You just never bothered to notice. I left her sitting in the coffee shop, staring at her closed laptop, and probably wondering how her life had gotten so complicated so quickly. That evening, I sat in my kitchen and took inventory. Nana and Derek were done, their relationship destroyed by the truth about his cheating. Mark was scared and isolated, worried about his corruption being exposed. Leah was panicked about the money she'd stolen and the audit that was coming. All of them had been neutralized, removed from Sam's support network, left to deal with their own problems instead of encouraging her to destroy our marriage. That left Brandon and Sam. My phone rang. Sam, what have you done? What have you done? I've had some conversations with our friends about honesty, about consequences. Nana's a wreck. Derek moved out. Mark won't return my calls. Sounds like they're all dealing with the results of their own actions. You destroyed their lives. I revealed the truth about their lives. There's a difference. This has to stop, Eli. Whatever point you're trying to make, the point is that actions have consequences. The point is that you can't just do whatever you want and expect everyone else to clean up the mess. I want to come home. I want to work this out. It's too late for that. It's not too late. We can go to counseling. We can fix this. You made your choice, Sam. You chose Brandon. You chose the online stuff. You chose to humiliate me in front of our friends. Now you get to live with those choices. Please, Eli, I love you. No, you don't. You love the idea of me, the safety, the security, the backup plan, but you don't love me. That's not true. If it's not true, then why are you calling from Brandon's apartment? The silence stretched out between us. Finally, she said, "How did you know?" I know everything, Sam. I know Brandon's business failed yesterday when his last investor pulled out. I know his landlord is evicting him. I know he's broke and desperate and looking for someone to take care of him. He loves me. He's using you, and when you figure that out, it'll be too late. I hung up and poured myself a drink. Tomorrow, I'd deal with Brandon, and then this would all be over. Brandon's apartment was in one of those complexes that looked expensive from the outside, but cut corners everywhere you couldn't see. I found him loading boxes into his car, probably everything he owned that was worth keeping. Moving day. He spun around, nearly dropping the box he was carrying. "Eli, what are you doing here?" "Thought I'd help you pack." Neighborly thing to do. "I don't need your help." "Sure you do. You need all the help you can get these days. Business failed. Investors gone. Landlord wants you out. That's gotta be stressful." Brandon set the box down carefully. "What do you want?" "I want to understand something. Help me figure out the timeline here. When did you decide to go after my wife? Was it before or after your company started failing?" "It wasn't like that, wasn't it? Because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you saw an opportunity. Lonely wife, successful husband, nice house, stable income. Must have looked pretty good when your own life was falling apart." "I love Sam." "You love what Sam represents. Security. A way out of your problems. Someone else to pay the bills while you figure out your next move." Brandon's hands clenched into fists. "You don't know what you're talking about." "Don't I? Tell me, Brandon, what's your plan here? Sam leaves me, takes half of everything in the divorce, and then what? You two ride off into the sunset together?" "Something like that." "With what money? Sam's a freelance graphic designer who just lost her biggest client. Her OnlyFans account is about to be shut down when her family finds out about it. And you're unemployed and about to be homeless. What exactly are you two going to live on? We'll figure it out." "Will you? Because I've done the math and it doesn't add up. Sam's used to a certain lifestyle. Nice house, new car, vacations, expensive dinners. You think she's going to be happy living in a studio apartment, shopping at thrift stores, eating ramen noodles? Money isn't everything. Easy to say when you've never had to worry about it. But Sam has. She grew up poor, Brandon. She's terrified of going back to that. That's why she married me in the first place." Brandon was quiet now, maybe starting to understand what he'd gotten himself into. "Sam didn't marry me for love, Brandon. She married me for security, for the promise that she'd never have to worry about money again. And now you're asking her to give that up for what? Great sex and empty promises." "It's not empty. I love her. Love doesn't pay rent. Love doesn't buy groceries. Love doesn't keep the lights on when the bills come due." I pulled out my phone and showed him a bank statement. "This is Sam's checking account. She's got about $300 to her name. Everything else was in joint accounts that I've frozen. Her credit cards are maxed out from all those hotel meetings with you. She's broke, Brandon, just like you. You froze her accounts. It's called protecting marital assets. Perfectly legal when your spouse is cheating, you bastard. Maybe. But I'm a bastard with a good lawyer and a better accountant. What do you have?" Brandon leaned against his car, looking defeated. "What do you want from me?" "I want you to understand what you've done. You didn't just steal my wife, Brandon. You destroyed her life. When this is over, she'll have nothing. No money, no friends, no family support, just you and your empty promises. I'll take care of her. How? You can't even take care of yourself. I walked closer, close enough that he had to look up at me. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to disappear, leave town, change your number, start over somewhere else. And you're going to leave Sam alone? I'm not abandoning her. You're not saving her either. You're just dragging her down with you. She chose me. She chose an illusion. She chose the fantasy you sold her about being rescued from her boring life. But fantasies don't last, Brandon. Reality always wins in the end. And what's reality? Reality is that you're a failed entrepreneur who seduced a married woman because you were too proud to admit your life was falling apart. Reality is that Sam is about to lose everything because she believed your lies. Reality is that both of you are going to end up alone and broke and wondering how it all went so wrong. Brandon was quiet for a long moment. You really hate us, don't you? I don't hate you. I pity you. You had a chance to be a decent person, to be a real friend. Instead, you chose to be a parasite, and now you get to live with the consequences. I turned to walk away, then stopped. Oh, and Brandon, Sam's parents are flying in tomorrow. They're very interested in meeting the man who destroyed their daughter's marriage. I gave them your address. You what? Sam's father is a retired Marine. Her brother works for the sheriff's department. They're old-fashioned guys who believe in protecting family honor. It should be an interesting conversation. I left him standing in the parking lot, probably wondering if he had enough gas money to get out of town. That night, I sat in my empty house and waited. At 11:30, my phone rang. Eli, please, you have to call off my parents. I didn't call them on, Sam. I just told them the truth about what's been happening. They decided to visit on their own. My dad is talking about driving over to Brandon's place with a baseball bat. That would be illegal. I hope you told him that. This isn't funny. You're destroying everything. I'm not destroying anything. I'm just letting everyone see what was already broken. I want to come home. No. Please, Eli, I'll end it with Brandon. I'll delete the accounts. I'll do whatever you want. It's too late for that. It's not too late. We can fix this. We can't fix anything, Sam. You broke it. You broke us. And you can't unbreak something just because the consequences are uncomfortable. I made a mistake. You made a series of choices over months. You chose to cheat. You chose to lie. You chose to humiliate me. Those weren't mistakes. They were decisions. People make bad decisions. It doesn't mean we can't work through it. Some decisions can't be worked through. Some things, once broken, stay broken. She was crying now. The kind of desperate sobs that might have moved me a week ago. Now they just sounded like noise. What am I supposed to do? You're supposed to live with your choices. You wanted excitement. You wanted passion. You wanted to feel alive. Congratulations. How does it feel? It feels terrible. Good. Maybe next time you'll think before you destroy someone's life for entertainment. I hung up and turned off my phone. Tomorrow, the divorce papers would be filed. Tomorrow, Sam would have to face her parents and explain how she'd thrown away 8 years of marriage for a man who was probably already halfway to another state. Tomorrow, this would all be over. But tonight, I sat in my empty house and felt something I hadn't felt in months. Peace. Not happiness, not satisfaction, just peace. The kind that comes from knowing you fought back, that you've made them all pay for what they did. Sam had wanted to feel alive. Well, now she was about to find out what that really meant. Ashes to ashes. 6 months later, I was sitting in Murphy's Tavern, the same dive bar where I'd confronted Brandon, when Jay slid into the booth across from me. Thought you might want an update, he said, signaling the bartender for a beer. I'm listening. Nina's working at a call center now. Derek moved to Phoenix last I heard. Mark's company went under when the FBI investigation hit. He's working construction for someone else now, making about half what he used to. and Leah paid back the money she stole, but the charity still pressed charges. She got probation and community service. Mark left her, by the way. Couldn't handle the shame. I took a sip of my beer. What about Brandon? Disappeared completely. Heard he might be in Seattle working at a tech support call center using a different name. And Sam? Jace was quiet for a moment. You sure you want to know? I'm sure. She's living with her parents, working at a department store in the mall. Her dad made her delete all her social media accounts, cut up her credit cards. She's basically under house arrest. Good. She asked about you through mutual acquaintances. Wanted to know if you were seeing anyone, if you ever talked about her. What did you tell them? That you were doing fine, that you'd moved on. And I had. The house was quieter now, but it was peaceful. I worked on my construction projects, read books I'd been meaning to get to for years, took up cooking. I'd even started dating again. Nothing serious, but it was nice to spend time with women who didn't lie to me or treat me like a backup plan. Any regrets? Jace asked. I thought about it for a moment. About the divorce? No. About the way I handled it? Maybe. I could have just walked away. Let them all destroy themselves without my help. But you didn't. No, I didn't. They humiliated me, treated my marriage like entertainment, helped destroy the most important relationship in my life. And they thought I'd just take it because that's what nice guys do. But you're not a nice guy anymore. I'm not a doormat anymore. There's a difference. Jace raised his beer. To not being a doormat. To consequences. I countered. We drank in silence for a while, watching the other patrons play pool and argue about sports. Normal people living normal lives, not plotting revenge or destroying marriages or selling themselves online for validation. You know what the funny thing is? I said finally. What's that? They all thought they were so smart, so sophisticated. They thought they understood how the world worked, how relationships worked, how people worked. But they didn't understand the most basic thing of all, which is that actions have consequences. That you can't just do whatever you want and expect everyone else to clean up the mess. That treating people badly will eventually catch up with you. And now they know. Now they know. I finished my beer and stood up to leave. Thanks for the update, Jace, and thanks for the help. Anytime, though I hope there won't be a next time. There won't be. I'm done with revenge, done with looking backward, time to focus on what comes next. I walked out into the evening air, feeling lighter than I had in months. Sam had wanted to feel alive, to escape the boring predictability of our marriage. Well, she'd gotten what she wanted. Her life was certainly unpredictable now. As for me, I was learning to appreciate boring. Boring was honest. Boring was reliable. Boring didn't cheat on you or lie to you or humiliate you in front of your friends. I drove home to my empty house, my quiet life, my fresh start. Tomorrow, I had a date with a woman I'd met at the bookstore, a teacher who'd been divorced for 2 years and understood that trust was something you earned, not something you took for granted. Maybe it would work out, maybe it wouldn't. But either way, I'd learned something important. I didn't have to be a sufferer. I didn't have to just take it when people treated me badly. I could fight back. I could make them pay. I could burn their lives down just as thoroughly as they'd burned mine. Sam had wanted to play with fire. In the end, she was the one who got burned. Ashes to ashes, as they say. Some vows are meant to be broken.